Hey everyone, welcome to the Bun Me Chronicles podcast. This is Randy Kim, and today I am here with Jon Hill. So, who is Jon? He is a two-time Emmy Award-winning producer and director living in Los Angeles. You can find him working at Fox Sports Digital as their director of creative video. He also has an award-winning feature film, Above the Clouds, which can be seen. And I'm very excited to have you on. I also want to say thank you for reaching out to me and sharing a little bit about your work. And also, I know that you're a big sports fan. Um, which is kind of like interesting because I never get to really talk about sports in my podcasts, like almost ever. And I don't think people know, or at least my audience or friends know that I am honestly been a big sports fan, especially when I was in my
Let's
20s.
go.
Like we're the
Let's
same age.
go.
Like I was that kind of guy that used to call on radio stations in my 20s about what's going on with the White Sox, what's going on with the Bulls. And so like I would be into these deep dives and I was always really into these radio and TV personalities. And I know that this is a world that you're very familiar with. So I'm curious. So who are you a big fan of?
Oh man. Well, thanks for the introduction, Randy. I always love a good introduction, and you nailed it. It makes me feel all warm inside. So thank you, man. Thank you. Your question is what? Who's my favorite sports teams?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Oh, so I grew up in the Philadelphia area. So I
Mm.
grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. So I'm wearing my Eagles gear today. Uh, and a really big basketball fan. NBA is probably what I follow the most outside of football, and a big Sixers fan.
Oh boy,
Um,
I'm sorry about that.
I
But
know it's been a rough one, but you know what? You know what? Like I think that's what I love about sports, and probably you do too, is
Mhm.
like it is the best. It's real life storytelling, and the you end up following these teams forever and they
Mhm.
always let you down and
Yes.
then but it doesn't matter because it's your team ends up becoming like your family that's like the terrible cousin that you have to
Hmm.
like keep bringing around and you wish you could get rid of them but you can't, you're born into it. So I sometimes am jealous of people who get to pick whatever team they are because they're from a place that didn't really have a pro team and you can just pick something. But
Yeah. I feel like the absentee father in this case because I have disappeared. Like I detached myself away from the Bulls quite a bit. The White Sox
fair.
especially. Like not to say that I want to be a bandwagon. Like for me, I want to root for my teams when I know that there's hope, when there's
Yes.
promise. Like I'm not looking for like a championship contender right away, but I kind of need to see the building blocks happen. Like what the Bears are doing right now. I see hope. Like, I was very cautious at the beginning of the season. I'm like, okay, I feel like this could turn around with Ben Johnson being the coach. Um, but with the Bulls, they've been in purgatory. There just seems to be no clue. There might be right now with Josh Giddey, but for a while, it's like there's been no expectations of them going beyond like the play-in. And then for the White Sox, it's been a colossal disaster since 2021. And I've been so far emotionally removed from that. And also I'm not a Cubs fan, so and I don't really watch hockey that much either. So I don't so it's like it's very interesting to be a fan in that sense, but also like I think for you being a 76ers fan, it's got to be very tough when you have to see Joel Embiid, not living up to his potential. Paul George for that contract, and then in the past you had Ben Simmons. I'm sorry to bring these names up here. I know
Yeah,
it's probably
wow,
giving you
wow, man.
PTSD.
I thought we'd talk about something light like my dad dying.
I mean, I am. I will say that I am a sports troll. I am a troll when
Oh,
it comes
okay.
to
So I'm learning.
friends.
I'm learning,
But
Randy.
but the thing is that I'd never get to do that because my teams have really sucked where I really can't do that. Like I can't troll like Packers fans. I can't really troll
Uh,
Lions fans like we used to. So it's like,
the,
yeah.
the world is a balance, right? Like you got to have Michael Jordan for six straight championships, but then you're also and then you had the great Walter Payton and great
Mhm.
Bears, but now you have to suffer through it. So growing up, you had the great life,
Yes.
and now you have to suffer through it. So Um, yeah, and I agree with you 110% because I
Mhm.
think, and this is why I love sports, and this is why it's really funny because in Los Angeles, not everyone, a lot of people are in the entertainment industry, in the movie industry, and a lot of my friends actually don't like sports.
Hmm.
It's they do the oh, it's sports ball or whatever. They make fun of it, all that stuff. But to me, it's just storytelling, right? And the thing about storytelling is you want to root for your hero.
Hmm.
So if your hero is, like you said, like your team, you want to have hope in them. You want to hope that the movie you're watching, the character will eventually learn from their mistakes and become the good guy. You got to hope that
Hmm.
Luke Skywalker becomes you know the Jedi that he was promised. And then when you're stuck with the team where there's no hope and
Hmm.
the owners are terrible
Hmm.
and don't know what they're doing or they're bad people and you're just like, why I'm not watching this show. I'm not
Hmm.
putting my time into the Real Housewives of
Right.
Chicago basketball. But when you do get a team, and even if they are flawed, even if they're flawed like a Joel Embiid or Podcast P, you could still root for flawed characters. I think that's one thing that I like to do as a filmmaker is like not all characters have to be perfect. We could be flawed. We can have our mistakes, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, we're rooting for people. So
Hmm.
that's how I
Who?
look at the Sixers, a flawed character that I am really hoping they get their act together.
Yeah, like who would be a sports hero in Philly for you?
A sport, that's really interesting. A lot of times it's just like the people I have good personalities and have good characters,
Hmm.
right? So someone like Tyrese Maxey is just like
Hmm.
always smiling, always nice. He says his please and thank yous. So those kind of guys are really great to root for, because you want them to do well. You want society to be all Tyrese Maxey's. You know what I mean? But then Philadelphia basketball, like a guy like Allen Iverson, who is the most flawed
Hmm.
of individuals, and he'll tell you that too. Dealing with so much of his upbringing, his struggles and stuff. And sometimes you kind of like seeing, growing up, Iverson was my guy because he had
Hmm.
all the flaws, and he just was this small guy that played with against these monsters, and there was no player more exciting to root for. Um,
Hmm.
so like I love Iverson. I really love a lot of these Eagles guys. I love Devontae Smith.
Hmm.
I got to meet him and interview him once, and he was a really nice guy. So, like, the joke is anytime I meet someone in my industry, we're best friends now. So I put Devontae Smith as my best friend. Um, let's see who else. Yeah, it's just been fun. It's been fun. Like I've as I get older, the losses don't hurt as much.
Hmm.
I think when you're so invested in it. And now I'm kind of more just like I let it flow through me. If a team loses, I just have to live to tell
Yeah,
another story. So
I hear you. I hear you on
yeah.
that. And how does Philadelphia feel about Donovan McNabb now? Now that the Phillies have finally won their Super Bowl, what's the relationship with Donovan McNabb and the city? I'm curious about that.
I that's a good question. He was always a divided individual. I would loved McNabb growing up. I was a big truther. I was like, McNabb's great. He's the best thing we've had in a long time.
He's a Chicago guy
Um,
too. Yeah.
he's a Chicago guy. Um, but I think his post football, and he obviously didn't get us, he got us to Super Bowl, flamed out there. Um, but his post Super Bowl or his post playing career has been kind of, he's been bringing a lot of like what I would call like sad loser energy. He looks
Mm,
like he needs to, it's just been getting in trouble every once in a while. So I don't think
mm,
Philadelphia like really, I think they weren't, not everyone loved him when he played here. And he
mm,
hasn't done much in his post playing career for people to love him more. He's no Jason Kelsey. You know what I mean?
mm.
Or something like that. Even Iverson is still like
At least
the face of
revered
the city.
still.
Like he's
Yeah.
around and then like I said again, his
And
personality
Charles
is his
Barkley.
personality.
And Charles Barkley
Charles Berkeley.
still. Yeah.
Yeah, and they show love too. So I think that's a different. The thing about Philadelphia is like if you love Philadelphia, Philadelphia will love you back.
Hmm.
If you kind of put up a resistance to it or something like that, or you don't feel like you belong, and maybe because he wasn't born there, then Philadelphia will turn on you as well.
Why do you think Ben Simmons gave up on his career, and especially Philly, because it's just one of the bigger. I know tragedy is a huge word for me to be using here, but but it's got to be the most perplexing sports stories in recent years. Like, this is a guy who was a three-time All-Star off the bat. I mean, he was a number one pick. He was picked over. I hate to remind you again, like over like Jason Tatum um and uh, and I wonder about why his trajectory fell off the way it did ever since that playoff where he just was afraid to shoot the ball and was afraid to get into the free
Yeah.
throw line. Yeah.
I think so this is something that I think is really interesting. And this is going to be me one part psychoanalyzing a
Hmm.
person I've never met before.
Right.
And also based off things I've read and people I've talked to who know the situation. So I'd say, but oftentimes, and this is a bigger thing, and this actually I think happens in the Asian American community
Hmm.
too, right? Because this happened to me growing up. When you are so gifted at something, it becomes easy.
Mm.
And when things become easy, you don't have to put in quite the amount of hard work that someone else needs to put in.
Hmm.
And then at one point, the world catches up to you, right? Like I didn't have to study as I was so smart as like a 3 or 4 year old. I was killing the math exams. I was in all the honors class, all that stuff. And then and so you don't have to try hard. You don't have to study. You don't have to learn how to learn. And then you get to college and you're like, oh wait, I'm actually failing all my classes.
Mm.
Like the it was so easy before. I think that was Ben Simmons. I think as a teenager growing up, he was the biggest, the fastest, and one of the most incredible athletes
Hmm.
out there. And he's dominating, as a kid in Australia. So you have a different level of competition there. He goes to college, he plays a few games, doesn't make the tournament, decides to quit, doesn't want to be in college at all. Number one draft pick. Never, and that was the thing. He never needed to learn how to shoot. He never needed to develop his game. And he was getting praise and getting the money and the accolades and the parties and the cars and the women and doing all that
Hmm.
stuff. And then it finally just caught up to him. You can only be faster and stronger and quicker than everyone up until a certain point. At some point, you have to be able to, people figure you out. And after a couple of years, he never thought he needed to just rebuild his shot and start from the beginning. And
Mm.
it just caught up to him. And I think that's the difference between his probably mental makeup versus other people, where other people would be like, look, I got to be Kobe Bryant. I got to shoot 10,000 jumpers every day kind of thing.
Hmm.
My understanding is that wasn't who he was.
Yeah, I think that there should be a good 30 for 30 like in 10, 15 years about his life. I hope they get to produce that because I would be very interested in figuring out the psyche of Ben Simmons, especially what he's been going through the last couple of years. I mean, he's
Yeah,
he's doing well financially, so I mean, I don't think
yeah,
there's anything to worry about there. So,
I would guess a bold prediction is that you will see him on a reality show very soon.
wow. Do
Yeah,
you think he'll
that's
be
my
you think he'll be dating
that's.
a Kardashian?
Oh well, I think he did for a little
Oh,
bit.
did he?
I
Oh,
think he
he
tried.
might have. Yeah.
But yeah, I could see him being, some sort of bachelor show or some Real Housewives or something like that. I
I
that
could
I
see
think
that.
he cared. I think he cared more about being famous than he did about being
Hmm.
a great basketball player, which is a
So,
shame.
yeah, and also like for me, like a big sports heroes like Dennis Rodman,
Yeah.
I felt like as a teenager, watching him being eccentric and being very much like the devil may care attitude that he has, I felt like it resonated very well with me, especially as a person who was never really fit in, being queer, being, an Asian person in a predominantly white community. And so I felt like he brought out that side of me, like that what's possible. And
Oh.
I felt like it's something that I've always been enamored by, and also because, he dated one of my favorite pop stars, Madonna back in the day. So it's kind of wild, but also like I'm a huge Paul Konerko fan from the White Sox. I've always felt like he was a classy guy. I mean, Chicago loves him, but people don't talk about him enough. I mean, he's such a classy act. I mean, the Game 2 World Series home run the grand slam that he did was etched in a lot of people's memories. Um, I have a lot of love for like right now I do have a lot of love for Caleb Williams. I'm like really rooting hard for
Yeah.
him. And Scottie Pippen was a guy that I have always loved as a player, but like what you mentioned about Donovan McNabb, it's like like his post career has been just hard to watch. And seeing the personality that he's become from what other people have told me about him, it's really hard to really embrace him because he was such a lethal force for those six championships. And of course, Michael Jordan, I mean, also very highly thought, but gosh, like he was the epitome of like greatness. And but it's also interesting because his relationship with Chicago practically has disappeared over the years, and he doesn't really
Yeah.
have a connection to it. Like one of his steakhouses has just closed about 2 months ago or a month ago, I believe. And then you have um his house that he lived in Deerfield, which has been I don't know if it has been sold, but it's been on the market for at least 10 years. So he doesn't really have any ties to Chicago necessarily, and unfortunately not with the Bulls organization. So yeah, but you had a connection, or I wouldn't say a connection, but you had an encounter with Michael Jordan. So I'm just
I
curious if you'd
did.
like to share that story.
Yeah, so I work at Fox Sports and on the digital team. So I do a lot of podcasts for us, our talent, and for a while, many yeah, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, I was doing a basketball podcast with one of our talent, Chris Broussard. I was producing that, and we would go to the NBA All Star Game every year. So we do interviews and shoot content and podcasts and all sorts of stuff. So one year we're going, and it's down in I think it's Charlotte, yeah. And we're like, all right, let's try to find a party, right? Because NBA All Star Weekend is a party. So we find out that Michael Jordan's having a birthday party, his 50th birthday, and we're Chris tells us he doesn't have tickets, but like this is the address. You should go see if you can get in. Okay. So we're like, great, let's try it. So we put our suits on because we feel like, hey, if we're wearing suits,
Hmm.
well, maybe we have a shot here. And we it was raining. So we get in the Uber, and for some reason, because of the rain, the Uber dropped us off in the VIP entrance. I don't know why. But because of the rain, as we got out of the car, and maybe they thought we were VIPs, they just kind of like rush us out of the rain. We get to the awning, the back area, and they're like, uh, do you have your wristbands? And we're like, sure, give us the wristband. And so they just gave us the wristbands. And then we're like, great, which way? This way? And we walk in, and then we look at each other like, holy crap, that worked. I can't believe it. Now we're at Michael Jordan's birthday party. Um, and it was incredible. It was at a tequila or distillery type thing that he owned or something like
Hmm.
that. I don't remember, but I mean, he had a cigar room. I mean,
Hmm.
there was a
Hmm.
Travis Scott concert there. There's every Jordan athlete imaginable was there.
Hmm.
Like because it's
Hmm.
the goat's birthday party, his 50th, so we have to go. Um,
That was 2013, I believe, right?
it
If
might have
you
been,
it's
yeah, around then.
2015, yeah.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Um, and then we just yeah, so then all of a sudden, like you feel the energy change, and the whole party looks over, and in starts coming in Michael Jordan, and he's walking down, and it is like they say certain people have just a certain aura to them, and the
Hmm.
whole room, and they command the whole room. Absolutely with this man, literally, like people like Charles Oakley are there,
Hmm.
like Russell Westbrook. Everyone's just like in awe of him
Was
still.
Charles Oakley still his bodyguard?
Basically, yeah, he's still big. So he starts walking in, and he's dapping up people, and my boss goes and bam, daps him up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to try, right? He takes us up. I go up like this to dap him up, and then bam, his security guard just boom, fist palms me right in the chest, just
Wow.
he said, "Get out!" And I was like, "Ah, so close, so close."
Damn.
But my boss at the time,
Mm.
Justin, just yeah, he got to dab him up. We were like, "Oh my god, you dabbed up Jordan!" Ah, yeah, it was a fun night.
That,
It was one of those nights where yeah, just sometimes you just walk in like
yeah.
like you belong, and hopefully no one says anything.
Yeah, I think it's really wild because Michael Jordan, like during his playing career, he was so accessible to the media. Like the man would answer like questions at 20, 30 minutes long. Because I used to listen to AM 1000 or ESPN
Mm.
1000 now, and his interviews, I would like sit there and like listen to the radio as a kid, like listening to him just talk, and very, very honest and very much breaking down what happened, what he didn't do, what the team needs to be doing. But ever since he stopped playing, like he's become the Willy Wonka. He's become the I can't remember that famous uh Leonardo DiCaprio played him. I can't remember what movie it was. He was a I'll have to remember what it is.
Okay.
I think his last name is Hughes, I believe. Howard Hughes.
Oh,
Howard
Howard Hughes.
Hughes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like he's been
Yeah,
living
yeah.
such a recluse
He kind of does. He
existence.
kind of stayed out of the limelight. Yeah.
So it is very wild that he ever puts himself in a public setting because
Yeah.
he literally takes the oxygen out of a room, and he's the definition of it. A funny story is that several years ago, I saw Madonna at the Chicago Theater when she was doing her theater run, which was unheard of. She had always done arenas and stadiums, and she had everyone's cell phones locked up in a pouch. And
Oh yeah.
so at the end, like I was like in the audience, I was right by the aisle, and I was about to fist bump her when she was walking past me. She's a very tiny woman too, and I'm like thinking, this is the queen of pop. This is a person who I've also like listened to since I was young, and I was about to fist bump her, but her security guard knocks my hand as she was about to fist bump me, and then I look around. She's like right by the exit door, and she's like, "Good night, everyone, Chicago." And she exit out that way, and they like literally slammed the door shut so she can just get out. And I
Ah,
was like, and this was at 2 a.m. in the morning because she didn't start the show until midnight. I mean, which is that's a whole nother story. But again, that was my close encounter. But I was able to meet Janet Jackson. I was able to shake hands with Grace Jones when she came by the audience. I'm like,
wow.
okay, at least I got my little taste. So
Yeah.
I'm not too upset, but that is kind of like so surreal to be in that kind of room when you like as a kid growing up, like you would never imagine to get into the sports and entertainment world, and then the people that you grew up watching, idolizing, and then here you are, like this is your work, and you're like, wow, I cannot believe I'm like in striking distance with people that I looked up to as a kid.
Yeah, yeah, it can be a surreal experience, you know. It's an interesting mix because, oftentimes, like one in this industry you have to be, obviously you have to be very professional and stuff,
Mhm.
and you have to be very focused so it's not like you can, you know, go all fan like and freak out, being like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I know you," blah blah. Like it's
Right,
you can't do that. You can't ask for photos or anything like
right.
that. But what I find is actually like when you work with certain talent that has these relationships, you know. So like when you work closely with someone, like when I would work with Chris and stuff,
Mhm.
he would be like, "Oh, I was just." He is at beyond level. Like he'd casually be like, "Oh yeah, I was talking to Magic last night, and he thinks
He's
that."
a
And you're
name
like, "Wait, what?
dropper.
Wait,
No, he's a
yeah." You're
name
like, "Wait,
dropper,
what?
right?
What? Wait, what?" He's like, "Oh yeah, like like that's what it is. Like that's literally who he talks to about basketball with. He's at such a high level of this industry. So it's things like that where you kind of like realize you're like, oh wait, I'm like you're working with the best of the best,
Mhm.
and they're talking with the best of the best. So
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
Do me a favor. If you see Chris Broussard next time, tell him to stick to his predictions for a change.
For his what?
His predictions for a change,
Oh,
because he
predictions. Yeah,
flip-flops.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, Jesus,
Hey,
Chris.
hey, the game's the game, Randy. The game's the game.
I know.
You talk about sports for 3 hours a day. You're gonna miss a lot of those shots. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but also like, what can you share about your experience being in the sports entertainment industry, and how has it evolved from the time that you started to now? I mean, I know it's a very
That
loaded question there, but
No,
yeah.
no, that's a great question because I mean, I see it so much, I we talk about it on my team. Like I've been working on the digital team for 10 years now. And think about just how far we are with uh what we consider the internet and social media from the last 10 years. Like I have to tell people I started before TikTok, and now we're doing a ton of TikTok. You know, now everything wants to be vertical. Now we're doing live streams. You couldn't do
Mhm.
the ability that we had to do live streams years ago when I started. And now, like, it's so integrated in what we do as far as, you know, podcast. A podcast's been around for a long time,
Mhm.
but not so much video podcast. And we were some of the early adopters of that. Like that Chris Broussard show was one of the early. I was doing video podcasts for basketball when other people weren't. You know, um, a lot of the stuff we're doing now for pregame shows, like you can see a first quarter of a game being streamed by a network, and
Mhm.
they would never have done that before.
Mhm.
Like for years they were very strict about what kind of rights could be put out there. Everything had to be bootleg. But when you work for a big place, you can't break the law. You can't be stealing stuff. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of like the whole industry has changed. How people get their information, how people get their news. We're seeing it all the time. We're starting to see even more. Uh, and it'll constantly change. When the algorithms change, when the industries and the platforms change, and will change. Same thing with sports. Could you imagine growing up watching 96 Bulls and in the middle they were like, Charles Barkley just tweeted that Jordan's on fire. You'd be like, what? What?
Mhm.
What just happened?
Mhm.
Like you couldn't do that. Now you can. Now you can have those things. You can have these polls. You can do all these things, and stay up to date. Um, all through as technology grows, and we'll see what's next. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we don't know. Like, you can't predict the future. And maybe in another 5 years, TikTok's going to be only for your grandparents, and
Like
everyone's going
like
to be like, "Oh, grandma's
like
learning about."
Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right. And then there's going to be a new Zip Zap app that
Mhm.
is embedded in your eyeball, and that's what the kids do. And you know, you'll make a skibbity joke, and then no one will know what that means, and you'll be like, "Oh no, you remember skibbity?" Like, yeah, stuff. But that's what I love it. That's why I love it is because in the digital world, things change. You can try
Mhm.
new things. One of my favorite things is just pitching dumb ideas and,
Mhm.
and seeing if they'll stick.
Mhm.
And you're seeing just the industry change too. Like, you're seeing ex players uh, building podcasts that
Mhm.
become massive hits, and now they have a whole business and an industry based on their one show. We've seen a show grow and then the other businesses out of that, and now they have a network. Then they're their own studio, so that stuff excites me too, because I think for the independent creators, you can really actually the gatekeeping has gone away in a
Mhm.
lot of ways. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, it's extra hard now because the market's so saturated. But at the same time, if you have a popular podcast or a popular web series or a popular Patreon or blog, you can really you can make a living out of it. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, and also you are a two-time Emmy Award winner as a producer. How has that
Yeah.
changed you and your own professional ambitions and people's perception of your work?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, okay. Hey, look, I got to keep it real. I like to say yes, yes. I'm a two-time Emmy award-winning producer, but it's the same way that like the backup kicker gets an Emmy.
Mhm.
I've been very fortunate to be part of teams that did great
Mhm.
things, teams that did the World Cup, teams that worked with Cosm for the latest one we won. Um, so I am not the reason why we won an Emmy. You probably could get rid of me and no one would notice. But I'm very honored to be a part of a team that deserved one. So as far as what that means for me, I mean, I think it frankly it sounds really good. And it does, I think, can kind of cut through. There's so many people in this industry, but if you sometimes get these accolades, it can get your foot in the door. If you're reaching out to someone to collaborate, or hey, I wrote the script. It's like there's a lot of it can kind of help that way, where you're like, hey, I'm not just a random guy doing videos. I'm actually a professional, and I've been able to accomplish a couple things. Do you want to have a conversation? And let me tell you about my new project. I think that helps. I think that helped for Above the Clouds for sure.
Yeah. And I was also wondering, well, how has it helped you like unlock the other opportunities, the things that you were working on? And I know I want to definitely talk about Above the Clouds, but I'm curious in like what it has led to in terms of collaborations.
As far as collaborations, yeah, I would say in the outside world, because also too, like, in the sports Emmy world, like again, like I won an Emmy, but so did the 100 people that worked on the
Hmm.
World Cup. So frankly, it's almost a joke too. Is like you can be really bad and have a couple Emmys. You could actually be like think about, you know what I mean? Like you could be like there's really terrible people with Super Bowl rings.
Hmm.
There's the guy that is like the coach will be like, I'll never put you in the game. Like so sometimes I'll see someone, oh, I won all these Emmys. I'm like, yeah, but you actually stink at your job.
Hmm.
You're just the backup kicker.
Yeah.
Like you're part
No
of a good
offense to
team.
Jeremy
So
Lin on that one too. So I hate
yeah,
to do that
exactly.
to him,
So
but yeah.
like, but so sometimes, so sometimes that could happen too. But I think it helps get you in the door, and I think my body of work, I think, speaks for itself. So
Hmm. So you recently released your debut film, Above the Clouds, which you wrote
yeah,
and directed. Congratulations.
thank
Uh,
you.
the movie, in a way, is like very connected to your life experience, specifically in the passing of your father and navigating your own mixed Thai American identity. What did you want to convey in this film? What were you hoping for as a takeaway when you created this film?
Oh man, there's probably a lot of things. But for me, it was really like we were at a point, I think, in time and society, especially in the Asian American culture, where things weren't good. We were seeing a lot of negativity towards us, especially around the time of COVID. And I think too in Hollywood and in cinema, my goal was like I just want to see more of our faces on the screen. And I think there's two ways you can do it. You can ask for permission or you can take it. And I'm not good at asking for permission, you know? I don't have those connections. I don't have the ability to walk into a studio and say, "Hey, I'm blah blah blah. You know me from my mom and dad, those rich people, and I think it is. I think there's a lot of value in asking for permission and wanting to see more of our faces on screen. I think that does help. I think some of these big Asian American films that came out are very impactful. Crazy Rich Asians was great, and
Mhm.
that's one story. Again, that's a certain subset of rich Asians. I didn't grow up like that. So
Mhm.
who's going to be able to tell my story? No one, And if I do this work and I make this movie, then we'll have accomplished what we set out to do,
Mhm.
So like now there is a movie. There is 90 minutes of a half Thai guy who meets a Korean girl and they spend the day together and they get to know each other and they get to share about their lives and talk about what matters to them and learn, the ups and downs of what they're going through and hopefully make people laugh, make people cry a little. It is a sad story. But yeah, it's just really, I mean, honestly, it's just based off my true life and I try to
What,
keep it as real as possible.
in what way has that film been helpful in exploring your own Asian, specifically your own mixed Thai identity?
You know, the, that's a great question. I would say for sure because like definitely while writing the film, like I was trying to figure out this nice, you're always trying to figure out a balance of what story you're telling and why. And a lot of the connective tissues. So this movie is a lot, for people who like the movies like, Before Sunset or Past Lives, it's a lot of
Mhm.
a guy and girl talking, and having conversations about life. So for me, it was like, okay, well, what are those conversations going to be? And that's where I really, while writing the film, I was like, no, I got to make it like unapologetically Asian,
Mhm.
is what I said. That was the term I came up with writing it. So
Mhm.
these conversations aren't going to be they're going to be rooted in our stories. When we talk about, uh, there's one scene where it's like the two characters have grown up with different subsets of parents, right? One traditional Korean parents, one Thai parents. So having, I think sometimes as Asian Americans, we're all lumped in as one thing, right? But it's like, and this, we are very different. So having a conversation of one parent having Korean parents and how they were raised is going to be different than how having Thai parents. And this character is based off a lot of my wife. She's Korean and her family,
Mm.
so we're able to kind of explore our differences, and try to bring a little nuance into the discussion about Asian Americans.
Mm. What was the journey like as an indie filmmaker to take on this project and developing it? Because like being like filmmaking is an area that I'm not very familiar with, but I will say that what I can observe is that it's a very daunting task to try to get everything set up, getting the funding, getting the sponsorships, getting everything that you need to be able to get this into fruition. So, how long did it take for you to get above the clouds up and running? And what was it like trying um to find casting and trying to get the film put together?
Yeah, I mean, it took 13 years to get it going,
Wow.
you know? So my dad died, yeah, well, now 15 years ago.
Mm,
And then, so the story is really based off a true story of a few months after my dad passed away. I came back to LA and I went to a coffee shop and I met this stranger. And then we spent the whole day together. And that turned into a short film. And then for 13 years, I was trying to convert the short film into a feature length film. And it was very difficult. And it
mm,
became this kind of trap, like your whole life you want to be a feature film director, and you want to make this movie, but then you're not accomplishing it. So
mm,
it becomes this burden on you. And this thing
mm,
that used to be your passion is now your burden.
mm,
And so at one point I literally had to quit. I had to like finally say, put this down and be like, hey, like you got this sports job. It's good. Go
mm,
for it. Don't For a while it was like, I'm doing this sports thing, I'm doing these other jobs, but I'm a movie maker.
mm,
But I wasn't actually doing it. So I needed to reset where I was at. That's
mm,
when I got a little more focused in sports. That's when we started winning awards and doing projects I was really proud of. And then after a while, that too, now you're hungry again.
mm.
You had to be remotivated. You have to sometimes walk away from a project,
You do.
and to go back into to loving it. So that's what I did, you know. And then yeah, and I love telling this story, but I was shooting a short film for a friend, and our other friend was shooting the other half, and he was like, "Oh, so who's shooting the other half?" And he goes, "Oh, Jon Hill is." And he goes, "Oh, does Jon Hill still make stuff?" And I was like it was the Jordan meme. I was like, "Oh," and I took that personally. And I was like, "Oh, you guys forgot." Like I'm out doing my sports thing, which is great. I'm doing really
Mhm,
well, being successful in this industry, but I've kind of paused on the comedy feature film side of my life. I was like, oh, I think people forgot about me, so I had to remind them. And so then from right there, that was like the moment where I was like, all right, I have to. I'm back. I'm back. I gotta make this film. But yeah, it's challenging. You have to raise tens of thousands of dollars. You got to
mhm,
convince complete strangers to join you. So you write the script, and then the first person, you send it out to a couple trusted people,
mhm,
and then you build a producing team, and you get a casting director. And the first person we casted was Kyun Kim, who's stars as Danny in the film. She's an incredible actress. She's so good. You just fall in love with her in the movie. She's on NBC's St. Dennis Medical. She's and Cocaine
mhm,
Bear. She's a star. So she read the script. We met with her and we casted her instantly. And then yeah, that's like the first step. And then you start meeting more people. And then eventually we found Chris Labadie, who plays Jay in the film, another incredible actor. He's been in so many things, um, and he really stole the show. So and then once you kind of have that, then you kind of have to fill in the little pieces. You have to find this
Hmm.
location. Oh, this location bailed. Okay, let's find this, and then it's just you're just battling every day. You're just trying to be prepared, being underprepared,
Hmm.
underfunded, just winging a prayer, hoping to get it
Hmm.
through. But if you build the right team, and there's a lot of people from my day one homies, Dan Reeser, Sean Cook, were my producers, some of the first people I met 18 years ago when I moved to LA. Nate Cornett, I went to college with. He's been my cinematographer my whole life. So you build enough people that believe in you and believe in the project, and then yeah, you just kind of start walking forward,
Hmm.
and hopefully you eventually hit the finish line.
Do you have, I'm actually curious if who were your biggest financial backers of this film? Like who do you feel like was the biggest supporters of of getting this film getting this film jump started?
Oh man. So we did a kick. I would say the biggest supporter is my wife. I'm not talking
Hmm.
financial, just like as
Hmm.
someone who is like, you need to make this movie.
Yeah.
Like I've seen you for all these years want to make this movie. I've seen you have to quit. I've seen you have to pick it back up with passion. And she just was like so much like knowing that I wouldn't be happy until I did this movie.
Mm.
So she was my number one supporter from day one, always supportive. She's the best. Uh, and then financially, yeah, it was, we raised about $42,000 on a Kickstarter.
Hmm.
So really the community came through, and you'd be surprised. Man, there's days I'd get a donation, just start crying.
No.
You know, I would get one person. I went to high school with her, my
Hmm.
good friend Chrissy. Her dad was my sixth grade teacher. He was my favorite
Hmm.
teacher, and he too passed away.
Hmm.
And she was like, "Listen, I read your Kickstarter, all this stuff. I've not once touched the inheritance my dad left us, but I want you to have money from it." And she got a very big, generous check. And she was like, I know my dad would believe in you. This is my sixth grade teacher.
Hmm.
you know, like for her to say, like, I know my dad would want me to spend this money on you doing this project. Like, how do you not wake up and try? You know? So like having people like that, having other friends, lifetime friends come in on the private side and give really big checks and being like, yo, man, I know I'm not gonna see this money again. But like go make this movie, dude. Like I believe in you. Just like I'm fortunate to have done a different career. I promise you, anyone listening, your independent filmmaking friends probably don't have a ton of money. And if you're a successful lawyer, banker, private equity, whatever you're doing, and you want to support the arts, find those people, man.
Hmm.
Because you know, we can all contribute to projects in the best way we can.
Hmm.
Whether it's making the project, being the writer, director, whether it's being the financier, or whether it's
Hmm.
just being the cheerleader. I had a lot of people who I talked to, I always say you need rocket boosters when you're creative and you have a project and you want to do something or you want to do that, you know, go go hang out with that friend that makes you feel great about yourself. I would tell certain people like, "Hey guys, I'm doing the movie." And they would just gas me up and be like, "Dude, I know you're going to do a great job," cuz like at that point
Hmm.
I needed that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need a pick me up. You need that friend that's going to like
Hmm.
you can be going through a miserable time, but they're the one person that can make you laugh about anything.
Hmm.
They're the one that's going to be like, would say, "Hey John, I know you've been wanting to do this forever. Like I believe in you, man. It's going to be sick. Like just do your thing." So you need to find those rocket boosters in your life and then hit them up when you need them.
Hmm.
And that's what friends do.
What has the feedback been, or your connection with the Asian diaspora communities, in regards to this film? Like, how has your relationship, in a way, been um, been deepened or been tapped into as a result of making this film?
Yeah, that's so many ways, man.
Mhm.
I mean, I can tell you a couple. examples in making the film, then I'll talk about it post film. But I remember we were auditioning and you're just watching hundreds of tapes, right? And I wish I wrote down this guy's name. I really do, because I gotta send him something. But this guy, he comes to audition, and it's all taped. Like you're literally on a website where people email their audition tape, and this guy looks at and he goes, "Hey man, hey, I just wanted because," and I would always send the script out. Like if someone wants to read the whole script, I would always send it to him because I believe in transparency. And he says, "Yo, I'm just really happy you're making this movie, man.
Hmm.
Like I read the script. I don't even care. This character you wrote, this character's a dude. I'm tired of auditioning for some kung fu shit.
Hmm.
This is just a real dude." And I was like, "Oh wow." Like, like I didn't even think of it from that side. Like if people are so if you're auditioning all the time and you're Asian American male and all you're seeing is some kung fu stuff or some
Hmm.
some trope or some kind of caricature, to have someone read something that I wrote and say like, "Yo, thank you."
Hmm.
Like they're like to for him to know that like there's people out there trying to change the narrative, you know. So that was really special. That hit me when I needed to be hit like that, because that gave me this motivation of like, "Oh, damn, like maybe there is something to this, maybe you have theories about what you're doing, but to hear it from other people and saying, like, hey, like go at it, like thank you, man, like that means a lot." Um, and just having conversations with my cast too, having people see it and then be like, wow, like look at this, like we're two Asian American stars doing this
Hmm.
thing, and the movie's about us, talking about us. That's kind of rare, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, And then since, yeah, man, we had I would say our best screenings were at Asian American film festivals. We had one in Silicon Valley, we had one Disorient up in Eugene, Oregon, Philadelphia,
Hmm.
Asian American Fest, like, and that really to me is have been my favorite because you're watching, and the question and answer is so good
Hmm.
because they're picking up on the little things. They're the ones being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I actually do know three J Kims, and they're all brothers." Like my joke was exactly like, "Hey, I know I have a mom exactly like Danny's mom in the movie. We have this awkward thing, you know." So those have been great because then you also get to meet with other Asian American filmmakers and get to talk about the struggles and what you're going through and learn the business, um, and just seeing other great talents too. Like so. Not only do you get to play at these festivals and have a Q&A, but you spend the day there and you're watching, man, you watch like 20 Asian American short films and you're like, "Ooh, that actor's great. I want to I
Hmm.
got to learn about them." "Oh, this is beautiful. Who's their cinematographer? Okay, I got to meet them because what am I going to do in the future?" So
Hmm.
no better way than to do that. And um yeah, too, and just like, yeah, showing up, it's great. I love playing the film and talking about it, man. I love
Hmm.
when, you know.
And how did you feel about your own multiracial identity as a young adult? And because I know that growing up being multiracial, um, there's a lot of different like perceptions about who you are and where your belonging is. And also, I know the film in a way like brings that up, but I'm curious to know how did you feel about it growing up and how has it changed to where you are now?
Yeah, that's this one's really interesting, and I've started, I never felt like I know there's this a lot of people that are mixed race will have this I guess I don't know the best way to say it. They maybe grow up confused, right? They don't like, and I understand like which side do I fit in on? Am I this? Am I that? I've heard people say like, "Oh, I'm not Asian enough for my Asian friends. I'm not white enough for
Hmm.
my white friends," things like that. To be honest, I never really felt that. I didn't. I have always just felt Asian. Like my like if anyone meets my mom, she's like, we're Thai. We like sit on the floor to eat. We have all like the house smells like Thai food. Like it is weird. Like no one has ever. And we have to remember, I grew up in Philadelphia in the
Hmm.
'90s,
Hmm.
right? There was no polite. There was no you just walk into a place and they'll just look at you and say like, "What are you?" And you're like, this
Hmm.
the racism in the 80s and 90s is that's a whole other level of
Hmm.
what we're doing now today, you know. So I've never once been mistaken for being Irish, you know. No, I've never been able to just like sneak in into the white world and have be open arms, be like, "Oh yeah, I think that's I think John's Scottish." No, like I've always they're just like, what are you? You know? Um, and so like when you grow up with a mom that, who barely speaks English, like you can't not be that. You can't forget that, you know? So I've always known, and I was, yeah. So I never really even felt that, that split side, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? And growing up, my brother and all his friends were Asian and mixed race, or, we were a very diverse crew. Um, So we always were, I always just knew I was on the outside of it, so I never
Hmm.
felt like that. A couple times, there's definitely a lot, like, I would say now what's interesting is having married my wife and her family. Both her family you know, came over from Korea. So what I've learned now is that there's certain things that they didn't do that I did. Some of the American things, right? Like a perfect example, like Thanksgiving's coming up.
Hmm.
When I first met her, I cooked Thanksgiving for the whole fam, like all the extended uncles and Koreans,
My goodness.
and they didn't grow up with the Thanksgiving that I grew up with,
Hmm.
because I would sometimes go to my grandparents' house in upstate New York, and we'd have a big Thanksgiving, the white side of the family. So making a turkey for them, making the cram, the stuff that I would say are traditional American kind of, things. Uh, I definitely had that growing up, you know. Um, but no, I never really had. My, I've been one thing about me is I'm very comfortable in my skin,
Hmm.
and I don't let outsiders dictate who I am. And I know it happens to a lot of people, and I know I've had these conversations with people where they feel like I don't know what group I belong in, and and to me it's like I belong in the group that I'm in. And you're not going to tell me otherwise. Like
Hmm.
you can try. You could try to say I'm something I'm not. You can try to diss me and say, "Oh, well, you're only this or you're only that or whatever." And I'm like, "Cool,
Hmm.
dude. Like, I just don't care about your opinion.
Yeah.
I am me, and that's who I love. And this is, flaws and all. Like, feel free to judge me. I don't care. I say this all the time.
Hmm.
Look, you can say I can't write a movie. You could say I can't direct a movie. I can't edit a movie. I can't make a movie. I don't know what I'm doing. You can say all that, and that's your opinion, man. I don't care. But what you can't say is I didn't try.
Hmm.
All right. Like I wanted something and I wanted to tell a story about Asian Americans here. One about loss, what about grieving, and what about, healing as a community. And I tried. I tried my best, man. And I hope people like it, but that's all we can do.
Yeah. I also want to say that to your point, there's no one way to be Thai. There's no one
Yeah.
way to be Asian. I mean, this is something I think about a lot as both Vietnamese and Cambodian. I mean, I have definitely
Yeah.
heard a lot of people that are gatekeeping the cultures, and sometimes I think because of where we are at in our age, in our journey, like back in my 20s, I would have faltered. I would have felt very frazzled by it. I mean, I think the first time I went to Vietnam, it was very challenging for me because I didn't speak Vietnamese very well at all, and I got lectured by pretty much like everyone in
Yeah.
Saigon
Yeah.
to the family village, and that was something that I could not erase. And then when I joined the Cambodian Museum Board in Chicago, then I think that's kind of where it started to like I started to reclaim that, and I realized that I don't have to feel like any of my identities are weaponizing me.
Yeah.
They're not a burden to me. Like, how can I make this an asset for me? How can I make it work for me? So I think what I've learned over the years is like there's a million ways to be such and such. And And I think that's what's so unique and so powerful about these stories because it's not one linear experience. It's not one, one size fits all umbrella. It's a multitude of very different layers
Yeah,
from
of
the
course.
experiences. And
And we never
yeah.
judge someone the other way too, right?
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
like you never go like if someone puts like ketchup on their steak, no one questions if they're an American or not. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like I grew up in America. If you ask me questions about how the government works, I'd be like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if you ask me a history question, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I went to public school. How am I supposed to, like, if I had to name every president from George Washington on, I don't know,
I
probably
could.
30. You could. Okay,
I
Randy
could
might.
actually, yes.
I couldn't, you know? So things like that, where it's like we don't get judged for
Hmm.
all these other things, but for
Yeah.
some reason, like you said, there wants to be someone that's
Hmm.
gatekeeping, saying a certain thing or making you feel that way, and it's natural. It's
Hmm.
totally natural, and I'm like I said, I'm saying this now as I'm
Hmm.
comfortable in my skin, and I promise you, there was probably times where I wasn't,
Hmm.
or you like you said, like I speak very little Thai, and I
Hmm.
go back, and sometimes, yeah, you're like, I just sorry, like I don't know what Thai, like my mom didn't teach me Thai as a kid, like I don't.
Hmm.
So there are moments like that, of course, where you wish you were better, but like I also
Hmm.
wish I could do 200 push-ups and had a six pack. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I wish my hair was long, wasn't thinning in the back, Like I wish I was there's so many things that we could talk about where I wish I was better at.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes too we have to give ourselves grace,
Hmm.
and I think mixed race people in particular. And I think that's the part why some people will struggle with it, because they don't feel they're good enough or they're not enough of a certain thing, but
Hmm.
like you have to really look at the other side, like you are who you are. You didn't get to choose your parents. Didn't get to choose this. um and there's no shame in that. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I would you know I'm very lucky. My dad was a great guy. Like
Hmm.
he's a good dude, so I'm not going to be shamed of him, or the fact that we end up my mom moving to America as versus where we would have grown up in Thailand,
Hmm.
that's out of my control.
Hmm.
So you just have to be like, like, okay, yeah, I'm not full time, but I also didn't murder anyone. Like there's someone in Thailand that probably murdered a bunch of people. Like, don't like, what are we judging each other for? Like we're good.
Yeah, I went to Vietnam and Cambodia recently, and I talked about this on my previous episodes, like actually a year ago now, around December. And like I went there because I wanted to feel like I need to do this on my own. I wanted to like reclaim something that I felt like was taken from me in a way, or at least try to reconcile with a lot of my own identity issues growing up. And it's like, I feel like I need closure on that. And I felt a lot of power from it because at least for the first time, I didn't feel like I was getting judged harshly,
Yeah.
for not being able to speak the languages. And also like for me, it was allowing me to deepen my understanding of my relationship with both the homeland and ever since I left or ever since I came back this past year, I've been really wanting to tap more into my identities more. And I started taking Vietnamese lessons and I also did so with the expectation of I'm not going to be a fluent speaker and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And I think there's something that's very powerful when you connect with other Vietnamese folks. And I've been like texting in Vietnamese more now. It's like if you had asked me, it's like 6 months ago, could I say something in a sentence in Vietnamese? I would have laughed at you. But it's kind of like crazy how a trip like that can really change the trajectory in your own direction. And I'm very curious about your own relationship with Thailand, where your mom is living now, and what has that look like for you when you have visited?
Yeah, man, and I just want to say I'm happy to hear that for you, Randy. I really am, man. Like I like
Thanks.
it's such a great journey. Our journeys are our journeys, man. Like success isn't linear,
Hmm.
identity isn't linear. All these things they're not linear. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And as we grow older, we will change and we'll see it
Hmm.
differently. Um, And I pretty much I feel like kind of the same journey with you. Like growing up, I went to Thailand a lot. First time I went, I was maybe 15 or so, and this was different. I went to my mom's village and they didn't have hot water.
Mm,
My first time, like to take a bath, we literally started a fire, put a pot of water on it, and that's how I had to heat it up. Like the bathroom was a hole in the ground,
mm,
no joke. You know, my mom grew up without electricity.
mm.
When my mom and dad got married, my dad rented a generator so that
Wow.
they could have lights for a celebration. That's how poor she grew up. She's really out there. Um, and yeah, when I first went back, it was really eye opening for me. Every person, all my cousins were wearing my old clothes.
Mm,
We donate. My mom would go back to see her mother when she was alive and bring suitcases full of clothes for the village, just so they had, you know, actual clothes.
mm,
So and then my cousins out there, got to meet them, got to really understand them, and they were closer to my age. Um, so yeah, I've always connected there. What's been fun now, though, over the times I've been now, I've been maybe I don't know 10 or 12 times. We got married there. We had a Thai wedding. Um, Now I'm starting to enjoy places like Bangkok more. Because as a kid, it's funny how you learn about your homeland through the eyes of your parents. You know, so when I would go to Thailand with my mom, she hated Bangkok
mm,
because from someone who's Isan out in the jungle,
mm.
the city's scary. Bangkok's too scary for her.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up. We would go to Bangkok, but we would only go to a cousin's house and we'd stay there and we
Mm,
wouldn't explore.
mm,
Maybe go to a temple kind of thing. Definitely no nightlife, none of that stuff. And then now that I'm older, when we go, me and my wife go, we love Bangkok.
mm,
Now, we can go and it's very affordable. There's so many great restaurants and places to go to. The museum there is amazing, the Contemporary Art Museum. So now I really look forward to going to Bangkok and exploring the city
mm,
as an adult. And
mm,
now that I have a job, a little more money to spend than when I was 15.
mm,
Um, so I think that's changed a lot too because the city has changed a lot, and what I enjoy in travel has changed a lot. And like really good food, what's funny is we go and we eat a lot of really good sushi places
mm,
because a lot of the uh, people from Tokyo, chefs from
mm,
Tokyo, where it's too expensive to live in Japan,
mm.
will start omakase in Bangkok and still get the same fish
Wow.
because it's not far. It's hard to get the fish out here in America because you got to go
Mm-hmm.
all the way from Japan. But if you're living in Thailand or any other Southeast Asian country, the the markets for the Japanese fish right there.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I kind of like I love it more and more, and I want to keep exploring. We were just back because my mom was sick for a little bit.
mm-hmm.
She's better now,
Mm-hmm.
but then so we usually go back and then go to her village where there isn't as much to do.
Mm-hmm.
But even this trip when she was in the hospital, we were in a bigger city and we got to
Mm-hmm.
explore that a little bit. So like I'm
Mm-hmm.
still exploring. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more I want to see and do out there, and hopefully I get to.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell me some travel tips too, because I mean I haven't been to
Yeah,
Thailand yet, but I think like you, like I felt like I was in love with Cambodia and Vietnam like immediately. It's like God, I need to come back again. I don't know when yet, but
yeah.
hopefully very soon. And
Yeah, and we
yeah.
just experience the world differently,
Hmm.
like you said, like your trip now, you're a different person than the first time you went, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like completely. So, yeah, you're going to explore it differently, It's just
Hmm.
and I think yeah, for some of us, a lot of us and I know this because I've talked to other Asians about this, like when you go as a
Hmm.
kid, it's a whole new world and you're scared of it and you don't know what
Hmm.
it is and you're
Hmm.
following your parents and they have their things, like just like again, everything's like if you're from a small town in Arkansas, you're oh my God, Chicago, Randy lives in Chicago, it's a war zone. oh,
Right.
Portland, they're getting shot every day. No, it's a dude in a frog costume. Like it's not like that, you know. So as you know what I mean? So like your opinion of these places are shaped off the people who shape those, but as you grow and then you can see it differently is my point.
Absolutely, and which is why I love traveling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Colombia at the end of this year. So like I haven't been to South America yet, so I'm excited to like explore the possibilities.
Yeah.
And we talk about your father and the loss of your father, like the past 15 years. What has navigating grief been like in the years since his passing? Because like I say this because my brother passed away earlier this year, and so I feel like I'm going into now the holidays for the first time, and then um his 1 year death anniversary in January, and then his birthday after that in February. So it's like, so I feel like I'm kind of bracing myself for it, but I'm curious
Yeah.
to know what has the relationship been like for you with your relationship with grief, uh, with your father.
Yeah, man, and I'm really sorry to hear about your brother, you know. I tell people this, you know, the first year is the hardest. The first
Mm-hmm.
year is absolutely the hardest because like you just said, it's all the anniversaries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's going to be the first, like you said, the first Thanksgiving
Mm-hmm.
without them, the first Christmas without them, the first
Mm-hmm.
birthday, the first time. Oh, the Bears made the playoffs. Who should I? Oh, I can't.
Yep.
You know, who do I
Yep. Yep.
want to?
Yep.
Those are the hard ones.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the hard ones. Um, I tell this story too. Like, you know, I was thought I was doing a good job handling it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
movie is about.
Mm-hmm.
Is you know, you think you're doing a good job
Yep.
handling a situation, but you don't really see the millions of cracks that have been building up inside of you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember one day, it was maybe 6 months after my dad passed, and I thought I was doing well, and
Mm-hmm.
I go to Best Buy to buy a hard drive, and there's two different hard drives, and I was like, oh, which one should I buy? And I was like, oh, I'll just call my, you know, because my dad was a computer guy, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can't anymore, and I just started crying inside
Mm-hmm.
Best Buy. You know, and leading up to that, I thought I was pretty good. I don't even think I really cried too much.
Yeah.
You know, I was, and then you're just like, so you'll hit those moments too. I tell people, you
Yeah.
know, it'll be the most random thing. You
Yep.
know, you'll find an old photo, you'll do this, or you know, something will happen, and those will be the hard times. But those are
Mm-hmm.
also when the angels come out too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll find an old video of them. I
Yep.
found some old videos of my dad, and I was like, I wasn't even sure I'd ever hear his voice. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you find an old photo, or you run into an old friend and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, the first year's definitely the hardest, but and I tell people this too, and I said it in the movie, I don't have any good advice. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing I can say that's going to make someone, you know,
Yeah.
truly feel better about it,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But what I do say is it does get better. It does get better because eventually you will adapt to the new reality, the new world. You find ways to cope. You find ways to
Mm-hmm.
cherish and memorialize, and you know, live a different the new life. You know, um, and it's not easy. It never goes away,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
you just you eventually just kind of it just becomes I don't
Yeah.
know. It just you
Yeah.
just kind of like get to it, you know. And two, over time too, like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time, I
Mm-hmm.
think too, you just kind of like forget stuff, to be honest with you. After 15 years, there's been times where I'm like text my brother texts me, he's like, "Yo, you know it's anniversary of dad's death." I'm like, "Oh, crap, is it? Is it?" Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
cuz you just 15 years you just forget stuff, man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you never forget what they mean to you, you never forget the
Right.
feelings you have, but like some of these little things like you said, like going into Thanksgiving, I'm not like, oh, this is the 15th Thanksgiving without. No, you're just like, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
another Thanksgiving, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but like, you know, I say success isn't linear, healing isn't linear,
Right.
pain isn't linear,
Mm-hmm.
you know, grieving isn't linear. None of this is. We're gonna have our ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs, you know. Um, and different things are gonna hit you when you don't expect it, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and the good times too, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be a time where you're doing something else, and like your angels don't go away. They show up
Hmm.
when you need them. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be watching a game, and you're gonna have a memory, and you're gonna feel them with you.
Hmm.
You're gonna be eating that meal. You're gonna be having a joke. Someone's gonna be doing something funny, and you're gonna be like, you don't even say like, I know my dad would be laughing with me. You just know your dad's laughing because you know
Yes.
your dad's with you.
Hmm.
You know your
Hmm.
brother's with you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it stinks, man.
Hmm.
It's like I don't know
Hmm.
what else to tell you. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. Like
Yeah.
it hurts. It's gonna hurt forever, but
Hmm.
it's gonna hurt a little less as you go forward.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you'll be surprised with how many times it does. It also does feel really good.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, because it's something that I've been thinking about too. I think the first time, well, like, I think like the 3 weeks, prior to his funeral, like I was probably more okay, weirdly okay. And, even during the funeral, his twin brother, who's very stoic, got emotional. My dad, who doesn't get emotional, got emotional. My mom and I, we weren't,
Yeah.
which surprised everyone. It surprised me. I'm like, but it wasn't until after I got back then things really started to become very difficult and very challenging. Like I couldn't go anywhere without being reminded. But like I think one moment I was at a coffee shop and I was doing my Vietnamese lessons online with a tutor, and then the song "The Only Living Boy in New York" by Simon and Garfunkel, specifically
Mm,
Paul Simon, comes on. That is actually my brothers and I favorite song growing up. And so that comes on. I was fighting back tears, like
yeah.
as my Vietnamese teacher was like telling me, he's like, okay, you gotta say this. Can you repeat this? And I'm like, trying to code it together, trying not to cry in front of him, in front of like people at the coffee shop. But those were moments. And I think like very recently, I went to well, my brother just got his twin brother just got married, and so they did an elopement in Big Sur, California. The photos were breathtakingly beautiful, and when I saw the photos I just broke down. I was like, God, I can't
Yeah.
talk to Andy about this. I'm like, so
Yeah.
he's this, I think that was like the first time it really started to hit me. He's like, yeah, he won't be there for those moments where like, yeah, can't do that anymore. But I think, as to your point, like, I don't know if it necessarily means getting easier, but you learn how to evolve with it. You learn how to adjust and make accommodations for grief along the way.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the way I'm having to learn it. So yeah, I know that this is still very much a new experience, and I know that we're at the age where people in our lives are dying expectedly and unexpectedly, and I think that's
Yeah.
something that's very much at the forefront of my head. Like, how do I, think about the people that have passed on, and what do they mean to me? How do I honor that? So, yeah, I really appreciate you, sharing your story on that. And what projects do you have going forward? What things are you looking to do for 2026?
Wow. I got a couple ones. Well, I think one of the big things for me work wise is the US uh the World Cup coming to the Americas.
Mm,
So I'm definitely so it's on Fox this year. So I'm gonna be doing a lot. That's gonna be for people who don't know, it's gonna be probably the largest, most watched sporting event in the history of the world. So
mm,
the World Cup is so massive, and now they expanded it to I think 48 teams. So it's going to be the largest, and
mm.
it's in Canada, America, and Mexico. So it's on our home soil, and that's going to be crazy. That's going to be 40 straight days of just
Wow.
soccer going nuts. And I've covered a couple World Cups before, but this one being at home is going to be really really special.
Stupid question. Where in America are they playing at?
Oh, they're going to be in LA,
Wow.
Dallas, San Francisco, New York. I think Chicago. I think
Mm,
Miami.
wow.
I don't have the list in front of me, but yeah, it's going to be massive. Um, so that is kind of what a lot of my everyday life is about is preparing for this thing. But on a personal level, yeah, there's a couple of projects I've been working on
Hmm.
that I'm developing as far as the next feature film that I want to do. There's a fun, stupid short film I want to do about identity and food, and I might try to sneak that in there. Um, but really just getting this movie out there, too. I'll just keep going, and I appreciate you inviting me on this pod
Hmm.
to talk about it because yeah, trying to get people the more people who see this movie,
Hmm.
the more likely I'll be able to get more funding for the next movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this weird balance of you have to think about what's next, but you can't forget where you're at
Mhm.
now, so yeah, if we can get a bunch of people to buy it on Amazon streaming, then maybe we can build a base to, make the next movie.
So yeah,
And keep telling our stories.
which brings me to that question, which you just answered is like, where can people find Above the Clouds? Where is it available?
So yeah, we're streaming. So the best place is Amazon Prime.
Hmm.
That's just like the way the online distribution works.
Hmm.
If you rent the movie, I make the most money, or if you buy
Hmm.
it, you make the most money.
Hmm.
If money is an issue right now for you or anyone listening, we're also free on Tubi
Hmm.
with ads. Same thing with Roku,
Hmm.
and also our YouTube. Uh, our distributor has a massive YouTube channel. So it is available for free. You got to watch a couple of commercials, or
Hmm.
if you're fortunate enough and want to support the film, you can buy or rent it on Amazon streaming. And just go to abovethecloudsfilm.com. There's a big link right there. Yeah, yeah. No, I hope people get a chance to watch it, and I think too, like for anyone who's lost someone, I don't want to spoil the ending, but on when I was in the hospital with my dad the last time I saw him,
Hmm.
I feel it. I saw a miracle,
Hmm.
and like I said, like we don't, we say we lose people, but really they're always with us.
Hmm.
Angels show up when you need them, and that's what the ending of this movie is all about. It's
Hmm.
the last time I was physically with my dad, but not the last time I was with him. I would
Hmm.
say. Um, So yeah, and also it's a comedy. It'll make you laugh because I think that's the best way through pain is often through laughter.
Yeah, as we wrap up, I have one last question. So,
Yeah.
what would you tell your younger self 15 years ago if you went back in time? What would you tell that person?
Oh man. Ooh. Besides buy Bitcoin, you said 15-year-old John?
Oh, 15 years ago.
Oh, 15 years ago. Oh,
Yes.
I'm so old. That's not even that long ago. I was like, I think I was still.
You were still in your 20s because I'm the same
Yeah.
age as you. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. I would say that I would say, hey, there's gonna be this. You're gonna get this job at this fashion company, and there's just gonna be this cute Korean girl.
Hmm.
Don't mess it up, buddy. Don't mess it up. If you can stick around, you'll. And she says yes, you'll have a good life. That's what I would tell myself
Wow.
15 years ago. Don't mess it up, buddy.
Awesome and awesome. And so I want to say thank you so much for being on my show. I hope that everyone gets to follow Above the Clouds and or at least see the movie Above the Clouds and support that film and also support your fellow indie films as well. So yeah, thank you so much for really being on my show, John.
Thank you, Randy. I love it. Appreciate you, brother.